Stepchildren let the dog roam off-leash after I warned them about our neighbor's toddler. They said I care more about strangers than family. The toddler's dad showed up with security footage and a printed report. I showed my stepkids the ownership transfer and the notice of fine in their, "Hello everyone, welcome to Reddit visuals. You know, I used to believe some people just needed a few boundaries and they'd learn. But turns out some only understand the world when consequences have teeth and a price tag. I'm a 44-year-old guy, and for most of my life I've been patient to a fault. I've been with my wife Rachel for 12 years now, and I've been raising her 3 kids now, 17, 15, and 13, since they were small. Their biological father walked out when the youngest was barely 2 years old. Sends a birthday card maybe once every couple years, never calls, never visits. So I became the father figure by default. At least that's what Rachel always told people. The truth? I don't think those kids ever really saw me as their dad. More like an obstacle with a wallet who enforces rules their mom won't. We live in a quiet suburban neighborhood where everyone knows everyone. Fenced yards, clean sidewalks, kids riding scooters in the afternoons. I'm the kind of guy who likes things orderly. Grass trimmed every Saturday, tools organized in the shed, and the dog leashed at all times. Speaking of which, we have a Labrador named Benny, a big, goofy golden boy with a heart of gold and the self-preservation instincts of a lemming. He's 75 pounds of pure love and 0 brain cells. He's family, absolutely, but rules are still rules. Across the street lives the Johnson family, Mark, his wife Emily, and their 3-year-old son Noah. Sweetest kid you'll ever meet. Every weekend he toddles around their front yard in these little blue rain boots, chasing bubbles while his dad records him on his phone. We wave, we chat over the fence. We're friendly neighbors. But about 6 months ago, something happened that put everyone on edge. Noah was playing in their driveway when he tripped and fell, hit his head hard on the concrete curb. There was blood, screaming, an ambulance. He ended up needing 12 stitches and had to be monitored for concussion symptoms for weeks. It wasn't anyone's fault, just a terrible accident, but it shook the whole block. Ever since then, Mark and Emily have been understandably cautious about anything that could startle or knock over their son, and that includes unleashed dogs. So when my stepkids started getting lazy about walking Benny on his leash, I made it crystal clear. You do not let that dog run free, especially not near the Johnsons' house. That little boy is still recovering, and his parents are on edge. Keep Benny leashed. Period. All 3 of them nodded. My 17-year-old stepdaughter Kayla even said, "Yeah, Dad, we know." I should have known better than to trust that easy compliance. It was a Saturday afternoon in late October. I'd gone to the hardware store to pick up some lumber for a backyard project. I was gone maybe 45 minutes max. When I pulled back into the driveway, I saw my 3 stepkids in the front yard, laughing and filming something on their phones, and then I saw him, Benny, no leash, no collar, bolting across the street at full speed, tail wagging like a helicopter blade. My heart dropped into my stomach. He was heading straight for the Johnsons' front yard, where Noah was outside with his mom, giggling and pointing at the dog. Emily saw Benny coming and tried to step in front of Noah, but she wasn't fast enough. Benny, in his clumsy, overly enthusiastic way, jumped up to say hello, and his paws hit Noah square in the chest. The little boy went down hard on his back, hitting the grass with a thud. Then came the screaming. Noah wasn't hurt, just shocked and scared, but Emily was yelling, "Get your dog! Get him now!" My stepdaughter Kayla was calling for Benny, but he was too excited, running in circles, thinking it was all a game. I sprinted across the street, grabbed Benny by the collar, and dragged him back while apologizing profusely. Mark came running out of the house, scooped up his crying son, and turned to look at my stepkids who were still standing there, phones out, kind of frozen. His face was red, his jaw clenched. "This is the 4th time," he said, voice shaking. "The 4th time your dog has run into our yard off leash. We've asked you to stop. We've been polite. And now my son is on the ground crying. Are you people serious right now?" I tried to apologize again, said I'd cover any medical bills if Noah needed to be checked out, but Mark wasn't hearing it. He looked right past me at Kayla and said, "You've been told." Multiple times. This isn't an accident anymore. Then he carried Noah inside and slammed the door. The silence that followed was suffocating. I turned to my stepkids. and they were all staring at their shoes. "Inside." "Now," I said. That night, Rachel and I had a long, tense conversation. I told her we needed to come down hard on the kids, that this wasn't just about the dog anymore, it was about responsibility and respect for our neighbors. She sighed and said I was overreacting, that kids forget things, and dogs are unpredictable. Every time those kids mess up, she's got an excuse ready. It's exhausting. I told her, "Rachel, this is the 4th time. Mark said it himself. They've been letting Benny out without a leash for weeks, and they've been told to stop. This isn't forgetfulness. This is negligence." She didn't want to hear it. Said I was being too harsh. We went to bed angry. 3 days later, there was a knock at the door. It was Mark again. This time his expression was different. Calm, cold, controlled. He handed me a manila envelope without saying a word. Inside were printed security camera screenshots, time-stamped, showing my stepkids opening our front gate and letting Benny run free. 4 separate dates over the past 5 weeks. Each image showed them laughing, filming him on their phones, not even attempting to call him back. But that wasn't the worst part. Clipped to the photos was an official letter from our neighborhood HOA. Mark had filed a formal complaint, citing repeated leash law violations and property disturbance. At the bottom of the letter was a notice. A fine of $800, payable within 30 days, with an additional $200 for each subsequent violation. I felt my blood turn to ice. "Mark, I didn't know it was this bad. I'm so sorry." He nodded stiffly. "I don't want an apology. I want it to stop. My son flinches every time he hears a dog bark now. Fix this, or I'll keep filing complaints until someone listens." Then he walked away. I went back inside, envelope in hand, and called a family meeting. Rachel sat on the couch, arms crossed, already defensive. The 3 kids stood in the living room looking anywhere but at me. I dropped the envelope on the coffee table. "Explain this to me," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Explain to me how, after I explicitly told you not to let Benny off leash, you did it anyway. 4 times, and got caught on camera." Kayla, the oldest, shrugged. "It wasn't a big deal. Benny just likes to run." "It wasn't a big deal?" I repeated slowly. "Mark's 3-year-old son is scared of dogs now because of you. And we just got fined $800 by the HOA. My 15-year-old stepson Jordan mumbled, "It's not like we meant to hurt the kid." "Intent doesn't matter," I said. "Consequences do, and now we're all dealing with them." That's when Kayla said it, the line that's been echoing in my head ever since. She looked me right in the eye and said, "You care more about the neighbors than you do about us." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. These kids who live in a house I pay the mortgage on, eat food I buy, use internet I pay for, were acting like victims because someone finally held them accountable. Rachel jumped in. "She has a point, David. You're taking their side over your own family." I looked at my wife, at the 3 kids I'd spent over a decade raising, and I realized something. They didn't see this as a problem. They saw it as me being unreasonable. So I made a decision right there. "Okay," I said quietly. "You think I care more about strangers than family? Let me show you what I care about. I care about being able to look my neighbors in the eye. I care about teaching you that your actions have consequences. And I care about not raising people who think the rules don't apply to them." I picked up the HOA fine notice. "This $800 fine, I'm paying it. But you 3 are paying me back. Every penny." Jordan laughed like I was joking. "How are we supposed to do that?" "However you need to," I said. "Part-time jobs, birthday money, allowances, selling things you don't need. I don't care. But until this is paid off, there are no new phones, no new clothes, no going out with friends unless it's school-related. And Benny? He doesn't get walked by any of you until I see consistent responsibility for at least 3 months." Kayla's face went red. "You can't do that." "I just did." Rachel stood up. "David, this is too far. They're just kids." "They're old enough to know better," I interrupted. "Kayla's 17. Jordan's 15. They both have part-time jobs. They're old enough to learn that negligence has a price." She called me controlling. said I was punishing them out of spite. I told her I was parenting them because she wouldn't. That didn't go over well. She grabbed her keys and left. Didn't come back until almost midnight. The next morning I sat down with a calculator and worked out a payment plan. $800 divided by 3 kids meant roughly $267 each. I told them they had 6 months to pay it back, which broke down to about $45 per kid per month, totally doable if they were serious. I printed out a payment tracker and taped it to the refrigerator. 3 columns, 1 for each kid, with a running total of what they owed and what they'd paid. Every time you make a payment, I'll update this, I told them. When it hits 0, you're done. Until then, this is your reminder. For the first week, nobody said a word to me. The house was silent. They'd walk past me like I didn't exist. Rachel barely spoke to me either, just gave me cold, clipped responses when necessary. Fine. I wasn't doing this to be liked. I was doing it because it needed to be done. Then, about 10 days in, I got a call from the HOA property manager, a woman named Linda. She said Mark had followed up to confirm that we'd received the fine and were taking corrective action. I told her yes, the fine was being paid, the dog would be leashed at all times, and the responsible parties were being held accountable. She paused. I appreciate that. Just so you know, if there's another violation, the fine escalates to $1,000. And after that, we have the option to involve animal control. I'd hate for it to come to that. It won't, I assured her. I'm handling it. When I told the kids about that phone call, I watched their faces go pale. The idea that Benny could be taken away if they screwed up again hit differently than the money. Suddenly, this wasn't just about paying me back, it was about keeping the dog they claimed to love. That night, Benny stayed leashed on every single walk. And the next night. And the night after that. 2 weeks after the fine, Kayla came to me with $60 in cash money from her barista job. She put it on the kitchen counter without looking at me and said, "First payment." I updated the tracker on the fridge. Rachel watched from the living room, but didn't say anything. A few days later, Jordan sold his old gaming console and some games at a pawn shop, brought me $75. The youngest, my 13-year-old stepson Trevor, started mowing lawns in the neighborhood for $20 a pop. By the end of the first month, they'd collectively paid back $210. I didn't praise them, didn't make a big deal out of it, just updated the chart and moved on. Because this wasn't about me rewarding them for doing the bare minimum. This was about them learning that responsibility isn't optional. Around week 5, something shifted. I came home from work one evening and saw Kayla outside with Benny, leash clipped securely to his harness. She was walking him slowly past the Johnsons' house. Mark was in his driveway washing his car, and Noah was sitting on the porch with a popsicle. When Benny started pulling toward them, Kayla held the leash firm and said, "No, Benny. Sit." The dog sat. She waved at Mark. He nodded back. It wasn't friendly, but it wasn't hostile either. Progress. That weekend I saw her updating the payment tracker herself. She'd made another $40 payment and wrote it in without me asking. When I walked into the kitchen, she glanced at me and said quietly, "We're getting there." I nodded. "Yeah, you are." By month 3, they'd paid back over $500. Rachel had started talking to me again, not warmly, but without the icy silence. She admitted one night, after the kids were asleep, that she'd been enabling them for years. "I just didn't want to be the bad guy," she said. "I wanted them to like me." "They don't need you to be their friend," I told her. "They need you to be their parent." She nodded, eyes wet. "I know. I'm sorry." Month 4 brought an unexpected twist. I was pulling into the driveway after work when I saw Mark walking across the street toward me. My stomach tightened. Here we go again, I thought. But when he reached me, his expression wasn't angry. He looked tired, relieved maybe. "Hey," he said. "I just wanted to say I've noticed the difference. Your kids have been really careful with the dog. Emily and I appreciate it." I exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Thank you. I know we put you through hell. I'm sorry it took this long." He nodded. "Noah's doing better too. He doesn't flinch as much anymore when he sees Benny. We've been letting him watch from a distance, getting used to seeing the dog on a leash. It's helping." "I'm glad," I said, and I meant it. Mark hesitated, then added, "Look, I know that fine was steep. And I know your kids have been working to pay it off. That takes guts. Tell them. Tell them I see the effort." After he left, I stood in my driveway for a long time, just staring at the house. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was fighting this battle alone. By month 6, the payment tracker on the fridge hit 0. All 3 kids had paid back their share. The last payment came from Trevor, who'd been mowing lawns and doing odd jobs all spring. He handed me $30 in crumpled bills and said, "That's it. We're done, right?" "Yeah," I said. "You're done." Kayla asked if they could walk Benny again without supervision. I told her yes, but that if there was ever another incident, any incident, the consequences would be even worse. She nodded seriously. "There won't be. I promise." And you know what? There hasn't been. It's been over 4 months since they paid off the fine, and Benny hasn't run loose once. They take turns walking him every evening, leash clipped tight, staying on our side of the street. When they pass the Johnsons' house, they wave. Mark and Emily wave back. Last week, I even saw Noah run up to the fence to pet Benny while Kayla held him steady. The kid was giggling, no fear in his eyes. That moment watching my stepdaughter be gentle and responsible with the dog while a toddler laughed, that's when I knew it worked. Things are different now. Calmer. The kids still mess up sometimes because they're kids, but they don't expect me to fix everything for them anymore. Rachel and I are solid again. She started backing me up when I set boundaries, and the kids respect her more for it. But I'll be honest, those words still echo in my head sometimes. You care more about strangers than family. Maybe I do. Because that stranger is a 3-year-old who didn't choose to be collateral damage in our family's dysfunction, and if protecting him made me the bad guy for a while, I can live with that. The payment tracker is still on the fridge. I left it there as a reminder. Not to punish them, but to show them what they're capable of when they're held accountable. So, Reddit, was I wrong for making them pay back that fine? For prioritizing a neighbor's child over keeping the peace in my own house? Should I have just paid it myself and moved on? Or was this the only way they'd ever learn? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what you would have done. And if this story hit home for you, please hit that like button and subscribe to Reddit Visuals. It helps us keep bringing you real stories like this. Thanks for watching.